global warm welcome to our sixth Community Design Chat. I'm your host, Julika Lomas, speaking to you from Amsterdam. And I'm a designer in residence for the UCSD Design Lab that is across the ocean. And I'm going to be having two guests tonight that will be joining us momentarily. So welcome to this three-way community design chat. It's the sixth in our row. The first one in the fall, we had one recently in the summer. And I'm very excited this works out to connect voices, people from across the globe. We'll be talking today about co-designing policy in Mexico during the pandemic. And then speaking this title, I was like, wow, it's not just designing, it's designing together with so many parties in Mexico with the UK Design Council and during the pandemic. So allow me to hand the mic over to you to introduce yourself so that I don't scramble this up, and then we can get started on the topic. Bas, you want to start?
Sure. So I'm Bas Raijmakers. I'm leading and co-founded a design research agency in London and Amsterdam called Standby, STBY. We've been in this game for, I think, more than 15 years now. And we work in very many different sectors, and we were very lucky to basically win the job on a call that Maria put out with the British Council Mexico on supporting a policy co-design project or program, I should say. It's big in Mexico last year and early this year. So that's what we're here to talk about.
Thank you for introducing yourself. So you have your feet in two countries. Design research is a big label and number you're known for, and 15 years of experience. So anyone who listens to this and has questions, this is really someone to ask many questions to. So feel free to type them in. And Maria, welcome.
Hi. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the space and for inviting the British Council to present the program here. My name is Maria Garcia Holley. I'm currently acting director for the whole portfolio of the programs in British Council Mexico. I'm a trained architect. I'm a self-taught designer and an art historian. I'm really interested in the intersections between policy design, city matters, and the creative industries. And just very briefly to contextualize on the British Council is the UK's international relations agency determined to build friendly knowledge between the people of the UK and the people in other countries. We have presence in more than 90 countries in the world, and we do so through three main pillars. One is arts and culture, which is the umbrella for the program we're going to speak about. The other one is education, particularly through higher education and research. And the third pillar is English and teaching English, the English language. So yeah, very happy to hear any questions and deep dive into the program.
That sounds wonderful. So just before start, as many may know the UK Design Council in England. What about the one in Mexico? I was really surprised finding out about this through this project and through Wes. Can you give us a quick
Yes, maybe we need to explain a little bit there, because Maria is from the British Council, which is different from the Design Council. So the Design Council in the UK is basically the organization that supports the UK government in kind of where design can help support policy or build policy or develop new policy. Basically, design's contribution to the government of the country, so to say.
Yeah.
And we had, as Standby, we've worked with actually Design Council as well, next to British Council. And we invited Design Council to be one of our partners actually here in the UK to help us, because that would bridge into kind of this long history of supporting policy design on a government level in the UK as well. And we also had other people actually involved that Maria took care of, who were working in a policy lab, which is another kind of part of the government here, which kind of looks at design to address the complex issues that we face nowadays. I think it's a good sign that politicians nowadays understand that politics alone can't solve all the complex issues, that designers need to be part of the mix as well. So that's how Design Council got involved as one of the partners, one of the smaller partners perhaps of the project, but the whole program was started by a British Council and by the Cultura Jalisco, who we should perhaps introduce as well, Maria.
Yes, thank you for the side explanation. And I'm confident that at the end of this talk, we will juggle these big terms and agencies much more comfortably. So the term council is important, or design council. Thank you, Maria. So tell us about Jalisco.
All right. Yeah, I can tell you about Jalisco and then tell you a little bit about the governance structure of the program now that we're in with the partners, just for the audience to understand how this all came to be and how we were able to sustain a one-year program of policy co-design with civil society. So Jalisco is one of the 32 states that comprise the Mexican Federation, the Mexican Republic. It's located in the western coast of Mexico. So it has 7.5 million people, and it's the second largest state in terms of economic development. Mm-hmm. So it's a state in constant development with constant investment. And in terms of culture and creativity, it wears two very strong hats. No, in the one hand, it somehow owns all the symbols that somehow signify Mexican culture. Let's say mariachi music, tequila, traditional folk dancing, charreria, which is also another traditional horseback riding art. So it's very traditional in that sense, but at the same time, it's very avant-garde. So it's also the UNESCO Creative City for Media Arts. It was designated in 2017. It has a lot of programming, a lot of development in terms of just like software development, creative industries, more in the digital sphere. So it contrasts in this intersection between, what it's supposed to be, heritage, and at the same time, what's supposed to be, more in terms of avant-garde development and, radical arts. So it's interesting how to work in the intersection of these two very strong arts in terms of culture, because the idea of the program is, for everybody who's joining at this moment, was to co-design, putting the people in the center, of course, the community at the center, co-design the new public policy in terms of culture for the state. So here in Mexico, each state can have its own legislation, and at the same time, it can feed into federal legislations, but it's able to understand the difference and the nuances between territories, peoples, and needs. So the idea was to use the pandemic as a pause. British Council was already working with Cultura Jalisco, which is the main partner in this project. Cultura Jalisco is the Ministry of Culture in Jalisco, in the state of Jalisco, at a state level. And we were already working together, and we said, well, the pandemic has hit. What do? We don't want to stop our collaboration. We had a lot of value going on. And we said, well, this is the perfect timing to experiment on how do we bring together the community to reinvent, what we have in stake, what the policies are. So, the value and the idea of the British Council at this point is, let's set design at the center. Let's place design as the process that will support all the thought processes, all the collective intelligence, everything that comes into place. We need, a system that is able to support, to signify, to understand, to edit, and then come up with a final policy recommendations. So this is where BAS and Standby comes in. So just in terms of governance, so we can understand how it worked. So let's say British Council and Cultura Jalisco were the main partners on the project. British Council would somehow help with, the framing, help with the facilitation with UK methodologies, design center methodologies. And Cultura Jalisco, of course, they have, the agency, they have the attributions. They are, the institution who is in charge of not legislating, but who owns the cultural policy of the state, let's say so.
Yeah.
So what we came is we came with a selection of two design agencies, Standby being the UK side and Aura being the Mexican side. So they would work together in order to come up with the methodology, but not only the methodology, but also, let's say, deep research, ethnography, interviews, all the design research, process that Bas can talk about.
So just to slow yourself down, for this mid-sized 9-month or year-long project, you had to really make your own methodology. Like you had to reinvent a wheel, a way of working.
That's right. And I think Bas can definitely repair on that. So Standby and Aura are agencies. they work together to support a core group of participants. And this core group of participants was selected of an open call, making sure that we had a very diverse group. Diverse meaning center versus periphery, a good balance, a good gender balance, a good disability balance as well. No? So we were trying to make sure we had a good representation, because we knew all the time that we could not possibly represent the diversity of the people of Jalisco in a 25, citizen assembly. So this is how it worked, basically. And participant group, the 25 participant group, were always in the center, and they are the ones, like, through their experience, through their lived experience, we come up with the deliverables, which are two main deliverables. One is the policy recommendation report, which is a set of policies with pillars and objectives and the way to get there. And the other deliverable is the playbook, which is a playbook for anybody who wants to get started with policy co-design and is able to do so. And that replicates the methodology or project. So I'll just leave the governance there to talk about the interesting stuff.
That sounds good.
But it's
so
important.
Just to repeat, to follow along. So you're also talking about the pandemic as a pandemic promise, as a time to slow down and rethink and redesign. And you're talking about this being very inclusive, maybe more inclusive than physical projects have been. So thank you. And Bas, how did it look like from your perspective, or how can you frame it for us a little bit differently from your perspective in London as another player?
Well, I think it's fair to acknowledge that these kind of projects are pretty daunting for anyone participating in them. It's the kind of work that many designers want to do, and quite a few designers are doing as well. It's a big ambition of many designers to do it, but there's not a huge kind of track record of it, in terms of this is not the kind of traditional way of doing it, and it's not accepted by that many organizations yet. So we have to applaud first, I think, the organizations who want to fully support it, like British Council and Cultura Jalisco, and who kind of put trust in agencies like Aura and us. And of course, there's a rigorous process to select us as well, so the trust is not given kind of that easily either. It's important to acknowledge it's a very complex environment, and that's why it takes a little bit of time to explain it as well. But also kind of connecting on something you said just before that, Julika, kind of reinvent the methods. In a way, yes, but also we were very much aware that we needed to kind of stand on the experience that was already there. For instance, Maria also worked in the Labo de Ciudad in Mexico City for quite a while, and one of the consultants that worked on the project otherwise as well. We worked in other kind of government environments as well. It's not an easy beast to deal with, the government generally, and kind of building a bridge between communities and government is even more difficult. So we were kind of firmly in a position that we needed to, as a big team, everyone participating, to build that bridge. There's a lot of mistrust and kind of between those kind of groups as well, obviously. So you need to put a lot of effort in connecting people, making sure that everyone kind of starts to take ownership of the program. Those things take a lot of time, but we see them also as design, and you can have design methods to do that. To give one example that kind of addresses head on, actually, some of those issues perhaps, is we did an exercise called Hopes and Fears, where we asked the 25 participants to come forward with their hopes for future policies post-pandemic for the cultural sector in Jalisco, and also their fears. And we didn't only ask those 25 people, because it's, in the end, even though we did a very good kind of cross-cut, I guess, from all the different people in the state, we also asked them to talk to their peers and to collect hopes and fears from their peers as well. So in that sense, we could kind of expand quite a lot. We basically turned these 25 ambassadors, as we call them, into researchers themselves. We worked in a virtual environment. To do that, we had regular meetings in the program with these 25 people. We had a virtual whiteboard, but also other tools. And then from all these hopes and fears that we collected, and we also discussed with this group, we built a magazine from the future. So from 2024, about how culture in Jalisco is doing, reflecting the hopes and the fears that we found. So this is where design research comes in to kind of analyze all those different inputs and to kind of create insights from that and then turn that into a format that is actually quite engaging and easy to understand and get into for everyone, quite different from a report. So there you can see how design can actually make a difference in such a hugely complex environment. On the one hand, to connect people and to connect people with very different perspectives and perhaps not even trusting each other always, but also to then collect stories from them that can be rendered back to everyone in an accessible format. It's all design that's needed for that, we feel, and we build on methods that others in these kind of positions used before.
So thank you. You touched on several beautiful things: emotions, fear, and distrust, and how you slowly and succeedingly build that by having conversations. I think they build on one another. Just like this talk today, we're not just running into it. We've had a preparation call. So there is a certain warmth as you come into this space to talk about this topic. Someone in the audience asked just now if the toolkit, if the playbook is available for them to view. So I think that touches on transparency and accessibility. Do you have a short word on where people can immediately type in and look for this? This is IPC, Innovación para la Cultura. That's how it's known as a project, Maria?
Yeah, absolutely. I can just set the link here in the chat if that's possible.
Yeah.
So everybody, it's a website. The website, unfortunately, the whole website is still in the process of translating to English, but it works very well with the Google Translate intelligence, so that's easy to see the whole website. But the toolkit, the playbook, it's actually bilingual. So you can find it in Spanish and English. That's published there. So I'll just put the link right here.
So that's also something you told me about. This was a project that was extensively bilingual. There was lots of investments made in translating it, in having it in both languages, right?
Yes, that as well. We had translators in the sessions even with the ambassadors, because my Spanish is not that good that I can understand everything, maybe 3/4 of it. So don't speak any Spanish. So we had to run a bilingual program as well, not just for me, but for many others involved as well. But perhaps to come back to the playbook, we, as designers being involved, but also as a program as a whole, we also felt a responsibility, I guess, to kind of bring all the knowledge that we kind of built during this program and all the learning that we did, to kind of bring that back to everyone, not just as a matter of transparency of how the money was spent, but also as a matter of allowing people, allowing designers, allowing governments, allowing communities to continue these kind of methods in their own context. And that's why we've set up the playbook in such a way that on the one hand, we kind of clearly build and reference on existing sources in the UK and around the world, and also kind of put in the experience that we had with the program as kind of a case study. So the kind of the main thread in the playbook is, this is a process that you could follow. Don't take it too strictly. These are tools that you could use. Appropriate them yourself. And these are some examples of how we did with those tools and what we did with the process. And these are all kind of lessons that we learned. You need to have some structure. You need to simplify a lot during such a program. But at the same time, you need to share very rich experiences to kind of show what kind of directions you can go within that kind of fairly simple framework. So maybe sorry.
Yeah, go for it. You to give?
Well, to give one example, fairly early on we realized we need to have a super simple way to explain what is the process that we go through here. And we said, let's kind of define in kind of plain English and plain Spanish, what are the 5 kind of steps that we go through. Not necessarily as one after the other, but these are the activities that we do. And they were understanding, engaging, exploring issues and opportunities, and validating and prioritizing, and recommending policy. So these are kind of words everybody can understand. And for instance, the understanding that we started with, that continued right until the end, because we needed to understand new things all the time, and that fed into the other activities as well. The engaging is mainly kind of engaging with the ambassadors, but also the ambassadors engaging with their circles. So these kind of words gained a lot of meaning throughout the program that we did not really put into it right from the beginning, but kind of asked people who were involved to kind of give, meaning they could give to those terms as well themselves. Creates a lot of ownership in that way.
So thank you. So you mentioned those 5 steps. I'm sure they are on the website that Maria is sharing
later. And in
later.
the playbook as well, yeah.
In the playbook as well. So in a way, this is a teaser conversation. There is no way we can do this project justice with these 30 minutes. It is just meant for people to have an appetite, and anyone who's watching this can share this later and go dig deeper in it.
Yeah.
You started talking about obstacles, but also I'm wondering, were there things that inspired this? Was there a country or a state that had done a similar policy redesign that you were inspired by, or what inspired you in all this?
Well, I think there is, an international tendency of, as we said in the beginning, place design right there, to bridge some capacities that are lacking in government. And this doesn't have to do with, like judging any type of administration. It's just the realization that these are skills that, methodologies that are pretty new, and not everybody has the installed capacity, the formation, the skills to implement them. But at the same time, they're very, very valuable. So yes, I do believe that one of the main values of this program was getting, this endorsement from Cultura Jalisco, from a state ministry, and saying, yes, let's prototype policy and let's crowdsource policy. And to be honest, that's still a very radical methodology in any part of the world, saying like, we will endorse this policy that is not coming from the top down, it's actually coming, bottom up. And that is, a very powerful idea. They are, of course, international tendencies we all know about, for years, behind us, we have the Mars Lab, Helsinki Design Lab. In Mexico, we had the Lab for Mexico City, which was the first one in Latin America. And I think, innovation labs in city governments are still very young, they're still very green, and they don't lack the capacity within the labs. What they lack, and one of the problematics of this is that they still, lack the understanding and the narrative for other policymakers to actually endorse them in a bigger umbrella. So we actually think that this project hacked the system a little bit, because now we are seeing that it's getting referenced by other ministries in the state government, let's say the Ministry of Participation, the Ministry of Transport, So we're actually looking at, well, instead of just using, that liner of saying, yes, we consult with the people, it's like consulting is not enough. We need to design with the people. And, our communities are designers, not only validating their lived experience, not only validating their own, day-to-day in the city, because, users of the city is the people who know more about what's the complexities and how we solve challenges. But we actually endorse this, and we actually change the dynamics of power. And this is something that we also speak about in the playbook, how to shift this power dynamics in order to make sure that we find a common ground. And this is not about, changing and say, okay, we as a government don't, have responsibility and let the people do everything. No, that's not what it's about. It's about finding that balance between owning your responsibility as decision maker and as a government, whilst enhancing and leveraging the skills that people have in order to make a better world, let's say, or a better context.
Yeah, I agree with all those things. And it's quite interesting, perhaps, in the context of these kind of chats that you're having, Julika, to also kind of look at this from the perspective of communities and people, because that's another perspective on this whole field, right? There's I guess in many places in the world, there's kind of the trust in governance or in governments and in politicians is going down generally. We don't see them solving the problems that we have. And yes, those problems are getting more and more complex, and more organizations are involved in kind of finding a solution for those problems. So they need to collaborate. But we can't kind of put all the burden, I think, on the shoulders of the politicians and tell them, well, you solve it for us.
Yeah.
So this is also an effort, a program like this, to kind of give more power or perhaps agency to communities. By kind of looking at this kind of whole movement growing around here in the UK, it's called citizen assemblies, where basically politicians say, well, this issue is too complex for us to solve. We should not kind of consult when we have found a solution with people, but we should actually ask people to come up with solutions themselves that move beyond the idea of winners and losers, which is too much kind of present in politics nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So what we wanted to do with the program is also find out how can we give more agency to communities to actually start up and advocate for these kind of things as well. And that's one important reason that the playbook is there as well, I guess. The playbook is very much also there for communities to kind of learn and kind of see how can we self-organize and how can we convince our politicians that some of the problems that are on the table perhaps are better on the table of citizen assemblies or something like that, supported by politicians, than on the table of the politicians themselves, who kind of, keep going around it, but never really address it.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. You're saying it's very, it's putting the agency into the people, and that's at least what design does for me too. It's infectious. It gives me this feeling of I can do. And in the Netherlands, there's this organization, What Design Can Do. It's very much of hope and optimism. So maybe to round this off, and I think this is unique for this live chat, I can ask you directly, Maria and Bas, what in this project connects to you as a person? Because everything else we will be able to read on the website, but to have your personal piece or voice on this, maybe that's how we can round this off. Maria, you want to go first? How did this experience change you, or why did you pour so much of you into this to begin with?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Julie. I think one of the things that really stays with me is that it's possible. No, it's possible to design digitally. It's possible to form a network digitally that actually cares for each other, because we actually think, that if we don't meet face to face or physically, we know it won't actually stick. Well, it stuck, no? Let's say so. And not only in that, but we were able to connect internationally. So, in all the organizations and the institutions we worked with the UK, it was, a really, two-way lessons learned, no? So we were able to connect and harness, the knowledge and the experience of the UK with Mexico, but the other way around as well, no? So I'm very happy that we were able to really enable this process from the British Council in Mexico. And hopefully we can continue creating these type of networks where we actually do care, these ideas of the politics of care. And this is something that this project really had at the core, no? So I will stay with it is possible, no?
Thank you. That's good to end on. Yeah, Bess.
Great. I'm going to put it on a T-shirt, Maria. It is possible. And wear it at these sessions. I think that's going to make a big difference. It's a great idea. I like it. So for me, it's connecting to what I said just before. I think there's so many issues and problems in society nowadays, on a very large scale and on a small scale, global and local, that need addressing. And I really think that communities can play a much bigger role in that, and design can help them do that. So for me personally, I'm on some kind of mission to kind of contribute to that. And it's important, I think, to realize for myself, and perhaps it inspires others as well, that yes, sometimes you need to have kind of big institutions behind you, like British Council and Cultura Jalisco, and you need to kind of talk a long time before you get this kind of thing off the ground. But you can take lessons from these kind of bigger programs to kind of do things quite small in your own area as well. And I'm going to do that, for instance, this Saturday here on the estate where I'm living in London. Perhaps you can kind of see it a bit behind me. There's kind of 500 flats around me, and we have this residence group here called Green Golden Lane. And we're basically looking into kind of supporting the City of London, or perhaps twisting the arm of the City of London to kind of make the estate more green. And we can definitely build on the kind of things that are in the playbook and in my experience as well to kind of make that happen with just a few kind of volunteer residents in the community center for a few hours on a Saturday afternoon. You can start like that as well. And that really makes it personal for me. And I think that's what makes this very kind of approachable and possible. It is possible for many, many people, I think. We don't need to wait until we are in a big program like the one we were in.
So those are wonderful takeaways and wonderful connections to your personal lives, your situation in London with wanting more green, and Maria, for you to have started all this, to have and instigated this and then taken it to this stage. And I think it is a success. So anyone who's joining us now, this will be posted for you to rewatch, to share, to dig deeper into, and you can reach out to Bas via the Reach Network or Maria versus the Instagram account or websites and all that. So thank you very much for your time. And I'll wrap it up with this, speaking for San Diego, but also from Amsterdam across the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, Maria. Bye-bye.
Bye.